Okay, it's time for another demonstration video for one of the eBay items that I have listed from my computer collection that I am now selling. Downsizing. What we have here is two ET3400s. Actually, it's a 3400A, although they're marked as 3400s. You can tell the difference because the RAM on these two is simply a 2-chip RAM as opposed to the original ET3400 had 4 chips. Also in the 3400A, there is a crystal oscillator. In the original 3400, they didn't have a crystal. There was a different type of oscillator. So what I'm going to show you here first is both of these machines booting up and running. But the problem is with the bright lights here, so you can see things, it's somewhat hard to see the display. So I'll go ahead and fire them both up so you can kind of see them with some light on. And then I'm going to dim the lights, and then we can look at all the functions for both of them. Okay, here we go. First, let's plug them both in. And there's one. You can see it's kind of hard to see in the video, but it says CPU up. Plug the other one in. And we have CPU up. That was a little easier to see. Oddly enough, the LEDs are older in this unit, so it's easier to see the LEDs because they don't have as much output. These over here have a lot of output, so you can really see them. So on both, I'll go ahead, reset actually goes right to CPU up, so it's no big deal. But then, for example, you can examine memory locations. Again, can't see it, but you will shortly. And on this one as well, examine memory locations. So I'm going to go ahead and dim the lights so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so I've dimmed the lights. You can't see the machines as well, but at least you can see the display a little bit better. So they're both examining 0. I'm going to go ahead and reset both of them. You can see CPU up and CPU up. Again, I think when you're in the light and you're not looking through a camera, the brighter LEDs are really great. But I didn't want to replace these on the older machine because it, I don't know, it kind of gives it some vintage to it. So they both do have functioning power switches, although if you know this machine, the power switch doesn't do much except basically turn off the LEDs. The machine's still running, and the point there is with standby, whatever program you have doesn't get erased. Once you unplug it, it gets erased. So turn them both back on. We'll start on the one here on the left, examine memory location 0000, and you can go forward and see all the different things that are in there. In fact, you can go back and you can drop a value in there by saying change, and then let's say we'll put FF in 0006, and you can go backwards, forwards, and look, there's the FF in 0006. So it has a lot of cool functions, and there's other videos on YouTube that will tell you how to use this system, but I just want to demonstrate that it's working. So, but all the buttons work just great, and that's cool. Now, it has a ROM on it, and that ROM is not the original. In fact, this machine didn't have an original ROM, so I programmed a ROM myself. And in fact, I did something kind of cool. Inside the manual, you'll see that there are multiple demonstration programs. So what I did is actually put those programs into the ROM as well as the monitor to monitor the keyboard. So one important point about these machines is that the ROMs that these use are 2716, Intel 2716 are compatible. And they actually are 2K ROMs, but the original monitor for this machine used 1K. If you look at the schematic, and in fact, part of this listing is the schematic. I'm not going to unfold it, but this is what the schematic looks like. It actually shows one of the address lines, the high address line, being put to a chip select, but that's not actually true. If you look at the pinout of the EEPROM itself, it's another address line. So that effectively gives you 2K. So normally, I'm going to do it over on this machine here. Normally, you would say, well, you do a reset, and a reset actually what it does is I'm going to start up FC00, and that goes straight to the monitor ROM, and that's what makes all the keyboard work. But now I'm going to go to F800. Now that is the EEPROM programmed at F800 with the first sample program that comes out of the manual. Now this particular eBay listing comes with 2 manuals, one from 1981 and one from, I believe, let me take a look here, from 1998. So this is a new manual, a little bit older manual. Now relative to these two machines, actually I misstated before, this is the older machine. You see all the chips on there if you look at the pictures. They're from 1981. And this one, all the chips are much later. This one has the yellowing though. It's not my favorite. It also has a crack on the back of the case. This one has a far nicer white board. It is kind of dirty. I did an okay job cleaning it up, but someone with more patience than I could do a much better job. Like in this area, you can see some grime that should be cleaned up. This one, I did some restoration on it. The CPU socket was in pretty bad shape, and it was causing it not to make good connections, so I replaced the socket there. Also, one of the RAM chips has some pins missing, which is undoubtedly why it wasn't working at all. So I basically fixed those pins. So everything's running great on here. This one, again, a little bit newer. Again, didn't have as well a original ROM, so I reprogrammed that ROM. But this one was working a lot better, and it doesn't have a lot of the grime in the breadboards, but that darn yellow, I just don't like it. And also, this one's got that crack in the case. And again, that demo's still running. That's a demo one, so you don't have to type it in. So that's it. Wasn't going to do too much for this video, just to show that both machines were working and kind of the features of both machines. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to add another follow-up video to that last one. After I finished that video, I realized just how hard it was to run those sample programs. It is cool that you don't have to type them in, but I wanted to make it even easier. So I spent some time and created a new ROM that makes running these programs a lot easier. What I did was realize that the monitor that runs these keys when you're in CPU up mode after you do a reset, it doesn't have anything on the 0. It's got like do and exam and forward on those keys, but nothing on the 0, which clued me in that the 0 isn't being used for anything, so I went ahead and used it. So I attached my ROM routine to 0. So when you hit 0, it says prog. It's asking you for the program number of the sample program to run. So I'm going to do one for example, 01. So what it did here, now you'll see it's running sample 1 program. What it did here is transfer an image of that program from the ROM to RAM as if you had typed it. That's really important for some of these programs because they can't run in ROM. They actually have to run in RAM. Also, it allows you to change them just like as if you would type them in. So that's program number 1. Let's go ahead and reset. Press a 0, program 02. Now this one just flashes the digits. Not too interesting, but it is sample number 2. Sample number 3. This is a little banner. Your 3400 is up and running. And sample 4 is the same thing, but made a mistake. But ticker tape fashion. Your 3400 is up and running. Now I'm going to go and do number 5. Number 5 is kind of a neat one. It's a guessing game. So what you do is you first seed it by pressing any key. And then the next key, it's going to tell you whether or not it's high or low. Oop. So 8 is low. Let's go to A. 8's low. E. E's high. Must be C. Nope. And D. Yes. Fun program. Let's go ahead and go to number 6 now. So 06 is a little clock. Now, by the way, this clock is really, really fast. I left it running for over a day, and I think it gained a couple hours. But the cool thing about it is that since the program got transferred to memory as if you had typed it, it means that you can go in and change the timing. In fact, if you look at the sample program, look in the manual, it'll tell you where to go to change that timing. Now, the program has been taken from ROM and put into RAM as if it had been typed. So now we can actually go set the clock. So I'm going to do auto on 0001. And this is where the hour goes. And it's 11 right now. Minutes is 21. And seconds, we'll call it 00. And now I've typed in the time. Now, since the program's already been transferred, I'm not going to run it again from the 0, from the ROM. I'm actually going to do it as if I had typed it in and go do 0004. And now the clock comes up with the current time and runs. Pretty cool. Now let's do the last sample program, which is a assembly language near branch calculator. So if I'm at address something 88 and I want to branch to something 55, I have to use C6. Really only interested in it if you're going to do assembly language programming, but it's a neat demonstration. So there it is. Just wanted to follow up the last video with a little demonstration of the ROMs that are currently in these two Heathkit Zenith ET3400A trainers that are for sale on eBay. Thanks.